Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Just stay surprised.
We are re-entering open session at 7:30 p.m. May I please have a roll call?
Member Durr. Member Dr. Koh. Member Cooley. Member Wisniewski.
Here.
Member Stennett.
Here.
Member Dr. Akras.
Here.
Member Wood.
Here. We have a few changes to the agenda. One being that directly following public comments, we are going to get to hear from one of our fantastic student reps who is incredibly dedicated and back here even before school officially starts. So thank you, Ashley. We're glad you're here. The other is that some of you might realize and recognize that we currently do not have a secretary right now. So member Celia Stennett will serve as secretary pro temp for tonight's board meeting. We will now proceed to public comments. We will hear in-person comments in the order that they are received. Each person will have up to 3 minutes for their comment. The board secretary pro temp Celia Stennett will let you know when your time has expired. Public comment will proceed for 1 hour. Our first public commenter is Devorah Heitner.
Thank you. If you'll look outside, you can see it's a little hazy. It's just a toxic soup, says Dr. Lisa Miller, a wildfire smoke expert at UC Davis, and that's exactly what we're asking our student athletes to breathe when we send them out to train or compete during poor air quality days, especially with wildfire smoke blanketing the Midwest this summer, as it did also in 2023. I'm a proud parent of a D219 athlete, and the coaches are doing everything they can to keep the kids safe, and I trust them. This is an unprecedented problem that shouldn't be left to individual coaches to decide and look at the AQI and think, okay, is it too much? What should we be doing? And again, I know there already have been some adjustments being made, so they are attentive to this, but this is a new problem for the Midwest, and it's a problem that school districts in California, Oregon and Washington and other states have dealt with for at least a decade. So we don't have to look too far to come up with policies, but we do need a policy. Unlike casual outdoor activity, endurance sports require intense, prolonged breathing, 40 to 60 breaths per minute compared to 15 at rest, meaning athletes are pulling in significantly more polluted air than you and I do if we just walk to the store. Exposure to PM 2.5, the fine particulate matter that dominates wildfire smoke, penetrates deep into the lungs, the bloodstream, and even, we believe, the brain. This is not good stuff. Respiratory issues like asthma flare-ups, wheezing, diminished lung capacity, headaches, sore throat, cardiovascular stress, even with short-term exposure, suppressed immune function, and even, again, possibly cognitive changes. And there's a performance aspect, which I think will really influence our coaches and athletes to want to be responsive to this. There's data showing that even exercising and preparing for a cross-country race in moderate conditions, you know, the 50 to 100, where we're like, well, it's yellow, I can probably go running, their race times are slower. Right, so not only is it a long-term health consequence, it's also actually diminishing their athletic capacity. As a district, we need a policy for practices and games that keeps this in mind, and we need to keep in mind that exposure is cumulative. So when we see a week like this, where every single day is 80, 90, 100 throughout the course of the day, we need to not just think about how many hours per day, but also how many hours across a week, where athletes might be practicing 5 and 6 times a week. Maybe some of those practices need to move indoors. Maybe they need to think about intensity. We have a disadvantage in this district already with AQI. Both of our big high schools are right next to highways. So we're not starting from a great spot in terms of our AQI. But this is something we really need to think about. People under 18 are considered vulnerable groups. So I've had this fight with my kid every day this week. He's like, I'm not a vulnerable group. I'm like, actually, you are a vulnerable group. And also, if you do not want to get asthma and be in an even more vulnerable group, one of the things you want to do is reduce your exposure. So I'm just here to say we need a policy, and until we have a policy, we just need to encourage every coach of every team that practices outdoors to be mindful about that's my time, to be mindful about this issue, and really encourage athletes also to think about this, because over the summer they're practicing on their own, and just like we might remind them about sunscreen, we also might want to be sending out notices like, hey, it's 120 AQI. Think about that before you go out running for an hour and a half. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are ready to move to the student representative. All right, Ashley, ready?
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and D219 community. I hope everyone's had a restful and re-energizing summer. Tonight, I'd like to highlight some of the amazing things that took place in our district over the past few months. To start, we saw an exciting expansion of summer programming for middle school students, particularly in athletics. This summer, more middle schoolers were given the opportunity to train alongside Niles North athletes. Beyond skill building, this helps foster a strong sense of belonging within our district. It builds early connections between incoming freshmen and our current Vikings, making the transition to high school a little less daunting. We also had several student groups staying involved through service and leadership. Dance Marathon has been busy this summer. They volunteered at the Skokie Juneteenth Festival, painting faces and spreading joy throughout the community. Many of them will also be helping out this Saturday at Niles North or at the D219 picnic at the pantry. Please consider coming out to support not only Dance Marathon, but also the Niles Township Food Pantry, which provides critical resources to families across our district. And as the school year approaches, we're especially excited to welcome the class of 2029. Freshman orientation is just around the corner. And as an impact mentor myself, I can say we're so looking forward to meeting our new Vikings and helping them get acclimated to all that Niles North has to offer. Finally, I want to recognize a few of the student accomplishments that happened this summer. The D219 Dragons, our co-op Special Olympics gymnastics team, competed at the state competition from June 20th to the 22nd. We're incredibly proud of their hard work and continued excellence, which reflects the strength and inclusivity of our Bridges program here at D219. In early June, 2 students competed at the Natural History Fair for their project on the Jane Collective. This is an impressive achievement that speaks to our district's strong academic culture. And just last month, 2 of our students represented D29 team at the NAACP's Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics, a national competition with over 2,000 African American students from across the country. It has categories ranging from computer science to the culinary arts. Our students earned silver and gold in their respective categories. From academics and athletics to community engagement and leadership, it's clear that our students stayed busy and made an impact this summer. So thank you for your time, and I'm excited to see how this momentum carries us into an exciting new school year.
Well, thank you for kicking the school year off well. We appreciate you for being here. Let's go ahead and shift on to the approval of the consent agenda. I would just like to remind our viewing public at home and those here in the studio audience, the consent agenda is something that we do review generally at finance committees. Things have been discussed previously. In fact, the Quest Food Service contract approval is on there because we have previously discussed it and had agreed to implement keeping them forward for this coming school year. However, I do believe we are going to get an update later in the year from the business office. So, all that being said, does anyone want to pull an item off the consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Dr. Akras?
Yes.
Member Stennett?
Yes.
Member Wisniewski?
Yes.
Member Durr?
Yes.
Member Dr. Koh? Member Cooley? Member Wood?
Yes. All right, wonderful. We are going to move on to business A, CFC intergovernmental agreement with District 68. And calling to the lectern here is going to be Christine and a wonderful visitor from the CFC team.
Hi, thank you. I'm very excited to kick off the year with this business item. As many of you know, I was fortunate to have been hired by District 219 to serve as the executive director for CFC prior to serving in my current role. So for those of you who aren't as familiar, in 2022, we began conversations with our current CFC partners for what the next iteration of an intergovernmental agreement might look like. More specifically, we wanted to keep things that were working happening, but also wanted to change things that were perhaps discouraging other districts from joining, and thus limiting the expansion of the program. We believed at the time that the biggest limiting factor was the all or nothing approach to joining the program. And as a district considering signing on, that meant that you would have to commit to all 3 content areas, so math, literacy, and science, and change your student information system to join our Infinite Campus system. So those are things that in the new intergovernmental agreement, we wanted to provide choice to our potential partners to encourage others to join. And that choice included implementing either 1, 2, or all 3 content areas, but also choosing to either join our unified student information system or keeping your existing one and syncing data. So we are fortunate to share that on June 24th, something very exciting happened, and Colin will take over from here.
Thanks, Christine. Yes, on June 26th, Dr. Scott Grenz brought the attached CFC intergovernmental agreement to the District 68 board, designed using some of the choices that Christine outlined to fit the needs of their district and their students. This agreement focuses on the adoption and implementation of a literacy program for grades K through 8, as well as STEM specials program for grades 6 through 8. In addition, their student information system will sync with our data warehouse in order to monitor and improve student achievement. The agreement that you have before you tonight was unanimously approved by the Skokie District 68 School Board, and they are excited at the opportunity to strengthen their connection with District 219. District 68's literacy adoption process aligns with the CFC curriculum review cycle, in which the Director of K-8 Literacy, Dr. Ryan McCarty, will guide a group of teacher leaders to review and pilot new literacy materials. Over 60 teachers from Gulf District 67, Skokie District 69, NTHS District 807, and now Skokie District 68 will be able to collaborate to make a recommendation for new materials in the future. I'd like to thank the board for their commitment to CFC programming, and I'm very excited to present this opportunity to you all tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Celia?
Yes, very exciting news. question, the STEM specials program, that's not the curriculum, right? That's not the amplified, the science amplified, or is that?
So that would be a little bit different from our science curriculum materials, which is, you are correct, Amplify Science. This is their STEM class that they use at the middle school, similar to Skokie 67, or excuse me, Skokie 69 and Golf 67. That's a specials class that the students take. It is mostly engineering design focused. So the primary curricular resource that we use is Project Lead the Way, which is the same program that the high school uses as well.
Nice, okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions?
One other question.
Ken?
How is this IGA communicated to the other members? Like, how do they know about it?
Through our task force conversations, that where we meet monthly off of that, we have that conversation, as well as just kind of shared information with regular meetings through them.
Colin, this is fantastic. As you know, I've been a big champion of the CFC program in general, and specifically recently with those contractual amendments and being able to really move this forward. So I personally look forward to attending the next CFC meeting to welcome District 68. I think that's going to be really exciting. Unfortunately, now we have to deal with the fiduciary piece of it. How will District 68 coming on board affect the spend, essentially? Is there going to be a budget requirement that will need to change? Is there going to be an additional request? What does that look like?
So for this school year, there wouldn't be any additional costs for the district because all the support is going to come through the development of teacher leaders and getting them, helping them guide them to that decision. So the following year, so as we work to set the budget for fiscal year 27, then we would take a look at what those costs might be. We would take a look at our existing cost share agreements with the other district and provide a proposal.
Okay, wonderful. That's great to hear that we've kind of built in some of that development with a little bit of a ramp. So that's terrific. Other questions from other board members? Okay. May I have a motion for the Board of Education to approve the CFC intergovernmental agreement with Skokie School District 68 as written? May I have a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? None? May I have a roll call, please?
Member Dr. Koh, Member Cooley, Member Dirk,
Yes.
Member Wisniewski,
Yes.
Member Stennett,
Yes.
Member Dr. Akras,
Yes.
Member Wood.
Yes. Welcome, District 68. Okay, now we are going to move to item B on the agenda, international field trip, Germany.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Dr. Cabrera Prado, who you all met in May, and she's going to speak more to the international field trips our students hope to take to Germany and Austria next summer.
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. This proposal is from the German team, and we have worked with them this year, and they've created a really exciting trip to Germany with a partnership that they've had for years with a school in Germany that includes a homestay and then a rich cultural and linguistic experience in Germany for our students in the summer of 2026.
Do we have any questions? Okay. Nora?
So is it the cost is $3,800 per student that the student has to pay?
Yeah. Yes.
And how about students who can't afford? What are the options for them?
There are fundraising opportunities for the students, and there's different opportunities for them to raise money throughout the year, as well as different opportunities via the schools in Germany to help raise funds.
Thanks. Additional questions?
I did notice that on here it does say anticipated fundraising opportunities, none. So that's why I also was wondering the same thing, like how are we going to help them? So it says none. I don't know if we
Well,
want to
there's
change
nothing
that.
right. There is, we don't have like candy sales or anything
Sure.
like that, but we have other opportunities for students in order to help them offset some of the cost overall.
Okay. Is that communicated clearly with the students in terms of how to defray those costs? Should that not be something their family can swing?
Yeah, we have different meetings. The teachers have meetings that throughout the year, I think it's listed in those different moments, or the snapshot of the packet that you all have, and they have various meetings with the students and allow them time, and they've known about this trip for a long time, so that also allows them the necessary time in order to kind of raise those funds as a family.
Additional questions?
Just one more. How are those experiences shared with their peers? What is the process?
They are very willing to talk about these trips because they're amazing opportunities. So they often do presentations, and they have different things in the hallway that we see the pictures from the different opportunities that the students have. And there is an Instagram page where they're allowed to see the pictures that students have shared, and they're very willing. We have a very passionate German team, and they're very willing to talk about all of these things, and the students are very excited about sharing these opportunities as well.
Yeah, and the students who are attending, like Alicia mentioned, they've known about this program because it's been happening every other year. And so actually the students who came here from Germany last year were hosted by students who are planning to go to Germany the following year. And so the group is geared towards students who have a higher level of German language acquisition, so our juniors and seniors. So the juniors, when they go into their senior year class, also share those experiences with their peers who are in the German class with them.
Okay. I was just curious if there's opportunities with our public relations to kind of piggyback off of that good work and bring more attention to it.
Yeah, we have bulletin boards in our wings at both schools where they are showcasing different opportunities that the students have taken via field trips or also study abroad trips, and so we try and highlight those as well. We've also talked about maybe having more general messaging as a department on the big screens in the different areas, so the students on the general education area can also see what we're doing. Okay.
I was just thinking abroad, like for D219, like do people in the community even know that we have this available? Just an idea.
Okay. I am sure my team will run with that.
May I have a motion for the Board of Education? I apologize. Any other questions? May I have a motion for the Board of Education to approve the Niles North and Niles West High Schools international field trip to Germany and Austria for 20 students and 3 chaperones?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'd just like to say I am a proponent of international travel, just generally speaking. There is nothing that builds your skills as a communicator, as a understanding human, as traveling internationally. In fact, one would suggest that this would be an excellent topic for International Week as we look at the educational pieces that can kind of support that celebration of our cross-cultural community that we have, that we're lucky enough to have. So I'm personally planning to vote in favor of this because I think we should encourage kids to stretch beyond themselves, get out of our country, see what the rest of the world looks like just a little bit. And I do appreciate what various members have already mentioned about making sure that this is not a financial prohibitive situation, right? Making sure we are clearly being very explicit. If you want to go, if you've got the German chops to go, then we can certainly help figure out how to make that happen. So, so is there any other discussion about the motion at hand? Okay. May I have a roll call?
Member Cooley, Member Stennett,
Yes.
Member Dr. Koh, Member Dr. Akras,
Yes.
Member Wisniewski,
Yes.
Member Durr,
Yes.
Member Wood.
Yes. All right, have a good time. Auf Wiedersehen. I can do it in a few other languages too. Okay, now we are going to move to item, oh, people are even moving up here. Item C, start of school updates, which I don't know if anybody else has noticed. School is starting, in fact, even as early as next week. So much to my current students' chagrin, they thought they had at least another couple weeks. So calling to the podium, oh, like basically the whole team. I'm loving it. All right, guys, tell us what you got.
I guess.
Well, yeah, well, so as an
Bridget, don't, just come on, don't. Okay, all right.
we will present this item together as an exec team. First, we have our mission, vision, and promise. Our mission we developed at our last round of strategic planning, and it states that we're committed to an equitable learning environment that embraces diversity and individual student needs, while also preparing students to achieve their full potential as a part of a global community. With this mission, we developed a vision. This is our North Star, to empower every student that walks into our buildings, that leaves our buildings. And each of the letters of empower is, it's an acronym for what we're trying to impress upon and teach all of our students. So to be equity driven, mindful, passionate, opportunity seekers, worldly, exceeding expectations, and resilient. Then with the arrival of Superintendent Moore, he gave us one really clear action item. It's to clear paths for all students. And we've been doing that. We think many of our staff can speak to this now. They understand it. They know how to put it into action in their classroom, put it into action on their sports team and their theater teams, put it into action from the business office, from the HR office, and together we want to not only believe in, but support bright futures with no limits for all of our students. Moving on to student enrollment. We've had a very active summer. I have a full residency team. I want to shout out to Dan Bomberis and Aleka Landon. I'm running around everywhere and they are able to just hold it down for me, and I trust them a lot. We hired a summer team. Reshma Sultana, Tammy Aldridge, Dimitri Burdine, Irfan Langia, Shamim Patel, and Lauren Lee, who have really been instrumental to make, again, I remind them this is everybody's first point of contact to the school year. Make it welcoming. We are not Border Patrol. We are not anything like that. We are a service to help students and families get their residency verified. It is a school code requirement. These numbers are live as of, I want to say, 3 or 4 o'clock today. And so our numbers are in much better shape. Typically around the first day of school, we have 100 families at each building who have not verified yet. So these numbers are great. Of those 100, we do have about 50, 60 not return. So I expect that to continue to be the trend. But so far we're doing great. We have one more evening hours tomorrow. And then we'll be here through the first day of school in the district office. So the rest of the week we'll be in the buildings. Starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will be here helping any last minute families. And we do have some last minute who are traveling and whatnot. Moving on to our current student population numbers. We are down in each building, down 17 at North, down 92 at West. The Central and Bridges numbers, those numbers are included in their home building, but I just wanted to show you what those numbers looked like as well. We have just early enrollment projections. We are going to see one more dip next year potentially, and then a steady going to fluctuate back up in the following 2 school years. So something we, both my office and Jim's office, Jim does our analysis for us, but we will be monitoring that.
Is that supposed to be 28, 29?
Yes, sorry.
What happened? Why are we at 30?
Yes, 28, 29. That's my fault.
Yeah, so this is a collaborative process. I think as we were looking at staffing allocations, trying to understand what was happening within the district itself, but we've done the analysis not only for District 219, but each of the 9 senders to understand what that impact potentially could be on staffing. We're also looking to engage in a partnership with an enrollment kind of demographic study as an entirety for the township. So I'm in conversations with a consultant that would do that and kind of get more data and have access to a wider data source to create a report that would look not only at the next 5 years, but also then the next 10.
Any questions on student enrollment?
Ray, is the population dip for the negatives, right, negative 92 or whatever, is that pretty typical for the 2 different schools? Going back one more. Yeah, is that pretty typical for the 2 different schools? Do we see, or is it just kind of depends on the year?
Yeah, so when we presented these numbers, I think 2 years ago, we were actually in the plus for every building.
Okay.
But I think we've stayed right around like that 4,500 number.
Okay, so this is just kind of birth rates, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
New hires, we hired 32 new teachers. We welcomed them this week along with our 15 parapros and our 48 support staff. As a part of the restructure also, we hired 8 new admin. And one area for HR as a growth is we are trying to do better onboarding. We want them, their first day, to feel very welcoming. We want them to know what it's like to be a part of our district. And then we also understand that recruiting starts every day at these board meetings when people are tuning in, how we appreciate our staff, how we talk about our successes. We always want to be recruiting and letting people know that we are the best district to be at. So we're excited about our new hires. We had a great session with them the Monday and Tuesday, and special thanks to our teacher mentors, DJ Kosiba, Wileen Singh, Rob Barton, as well as our support staff mentors, John Fitzpatrick, Matthew Jaffe, and Dom Shemrosky. We are looking to also bolster our support staff mentor program. And so we hired 2 new mentors, Jaffe and Dome, who will help us from the para lens as well as the secretary lens to make sure we fully wrap our arms around all of our new support staff as well.
Ray, I have a question. How do these numbers compare to last year? I mean, I think we had a conversation, in the closed session about the hiring was just a lot less than it was before.
I can tell you in a second. Just real quick, we had 8 new admin last year, support staff at 24, and teachers at 35. So last year and this year were our bigger retirement classes. You will see sort of a continued trend with our teachers. So we are currently fully in recruitment mode. Again, how we appreciate our staff, how we treat our staff, how we market and brand our district. We are full-time recruiting right now to make sure that, again, people hear from our employees as well as hear from whether they were unsuccessful candidates, and just even hear back from us about thanking them for their candidacy and wanting them to reapply at a later time. We are doing our best to make sure that branding is going out. But yeah, we do have a steady retirement pipeline of teachers, and so I will be asking all of our admin, once the formal recruiting session starts, to be attending those fairs with me to make sure we can fill our rosters up. Any questions on new hires in the retirement pipeline? Okay, I will turn it over to my teammates.
Happy new school year kickoff, everyone. Happy to have you here, Ashley. I hope you had a great summer. Before I begin, I want to recognize our principals here tonight, Principal Felton and Principal Parther. just because they've been working so hard this summer to ready our buildings to welcome our students back. And I also want to give a nod to Takumi for all of her communication too. So I get to tag team with Bridget on the 5-year strategic planning process and our special education opportunities review work. All of this is intended to inform, guide, and shape our programs, our policies and practices, and service to successful outcomes for our students. So under our current strategic plan, D219, we've seen tremendous gains and advancement in our mission that Ray kicked us off with in supporting the success of our students and in the face of a pandemic. And so as you may recall, the DM group consultant, Simone Carpenter, joined us for a board presentation to kick off this exciting journey. So tonight, we just want to share an update of what we've been up to since then and where we're going. So this is essentially a little bit of the framework, but also put into the timeline of the work that we have ahead, what we've done and what we've been doing. And so we have had 23 staff focus groups, and that includes our admin, our support staff, and our licensed educators and clinicians. We've had 3 student focus groups, students from NOWS North, NOWS West, and NOWS Central. You'll remember that the night that the DM group presented with us, they followed the MSAN, this Multicultural Student Association Network presentation, and they were so inspired and taken by them that they included them in a focus group too. I'm happy to announce and to thank you all board members for your paired focus groups in your interviews with the DM group. So we've had our working committee kick off in the spring, and they grounded us in an understanding of the overarching strategic planning framework and the components of actionable steps that we'll take. They walked us through this process to understand like our full timeline, all the intricate details of it, and what our roles are as a working committee. And then they facilitated some very interactive discussions and exercises that were really intended to help us to understand some areas of initial strengths and some trends, which we'll get into in our working groups, and then we'll share out with the broader public. So next we'll have a series of workshop meetings in the fall and in the winter. We'll get some process steps. We'll understand the data, what's the data telling us, all of those findings. We'll analyze them together. We'll develop a theory of action, if-then. We'll establish some priorities and some measurable goals around those priorities, and then we'll begin to draft the plan. And then ultimately, we'll come back in January to present a final draft to the board and the viewing public. But before we do that, we will work with the DM group and the working committee to reach a broader community of stakeholders. And so on the next slide, I have it. So that's the representation of group members that I named. So next are our community members, our community partners, and our parents. And so we'll be having community meetings on September 17th and September 18th at NOWS North and NOWS West. And that will kick off also a survey. So anyone that can't be there but wants to have their voice heard or a seat at the table, they can respond to a survey. That survey will be open also for students. We'll have a student survey. We'll also have a staff survey. And we're going to be very intentional about dedicating time for students to take it and dedicating time for our staff to take it because it's important. And so this is just a snapshot of what that night will, what we're inviting people to come out to do. And we do have a website. We're looking for RSVPs to help us to plan, but they are not required. We just want to make sure we're able to accommodate any special needs that any of our guests have. But it's for students, it's for staff, and it's for parents and our community partners.
Good question. How is the community meetings advertised?
So we have been advertised, we have RSVPs already. They've been advertised in the principal's bulletins. They are on our website as well. And it's gone out also in the superintendent's back to school message, the principal's back to school messages too.
I've also seen it on some of the social media platforms where people have posted and shared it. So I've actually seen it on a couple different people's posts. So I think the word is slowly getting out, and I'm hopeful that as school starts and we kind of reinforce the message of attendance, that people will be able to RSVP and let us know to expect them.
I also have a question. Was this open to community members who live in the district but perhaps don't have children attending the schools at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anybody who lives in our community, supports our schools and our district, are curious about helping to shape the future of our school district, they're welcome as well.
Thanks.
Are we going to have other language offerings?
Yes, we will have, so our family liaisons are supporting this effort. And that's why we're looking for RSVPs so that we can understand language interpretation and translation needs. Am I speaking correctly? I'll turn and look back at Takumi. Yes.
We do have another blast going out after the first day. It's directly to our families and to our community partners. There's another wave coming right after the first day of school.
So
To the save the date rate.
I think what I just heard Takumi say is that there's going to be another wave of invitations for attendance after the first day of school.
We just did a save the date right now.
Initially, it was a save the date.
Yeah, the information that Dr. Haskins is presenting was the first wave, and then we'll be doing another round after.
Phases of outreach. So I'm glad to hear that you're seeing it on social media, because that's what we intend for everyone to spread the message. And so I get to turn this over, Special Education Opportunities Review, to Bridget.
Sure. There's just not enough space up there. Rosina shared, we're running a very parallel path with respect to the opportunity review. We have shared numerous sets of data with the DM group. We've conducted a number of interviews, as we've mentioned before, with various stakeholders and focus groups, ranging from related service providers to general education teachers to paraeducators across all departments. We had an initial guiding coalition meeting before school ended, where we started identifying some themes, and these are the folks who will be true champions of the work. And it's a blend of special education staff, administrators, and those that work on the general education side, because the NTHS partnership and special education go hand in hand. We started to get some initial themes from the DM group that the administrative team, the executive leadership team are starting to digest. So when we return in September, we'll start schedule sharing. So folks are going to start to share across special education teachers and related service and counselors what a lot of their time is being spent on, how much time are they working with students, how much time are they in meetings, and we're going to correlate the data that we've shared with the DM group along with the schedule sharing and anything else we are working towards looking at. Our hope is that in the final phase that there'll be a draft report from the DM group around November. Will share their findings and their thoughts and recommendations moving forward. And we can work as a team to develop priorities based on what the findings are. It's a big part of also what the Guiding Coalition will help partner with. So it's not just the executive team looking at the information. There's a lot of buy-in and partnership with all stakeholders.
Sorry, going back to the language access question, is the survey going to be available in different languages as well? if people are not able to come to the meeting?
Yes, we are having the survey translated as well.
Thank you.
So, and also for families to be able to utilize some of the tools that we have online too for translation.
I was going to ask, how is the benchmarking of the data and practices?
Member Dewar, can you turn on your microphone?
Sorry, the benchmarking that DM Group is doing of the data and practices, what is their approach? How is that done?
They're looking at the qualitative and quantitative data that we've shared. We've shared everything from academic score reports, from a standardized assessments to any surveys we've administered, and they're also correlating the focus group feedback. They're using research, best practices across the country.
I was asking, what are they benchmarking against? So.
Yes, so they're looking at normative standards across the United States and best practices and working in NTHS and special education. It's complex. It's not just about reading and math performance. It's also looking at all the other compliance variables in special education that we have to follow as far as part of the law.
It's one of the great benefits and why we chose the DM Group, not just the fact that they do this work across the country with districts across the country, but they have access to since they're centered out of Harvard, towards the Harvard Education Program, Harvard Business Program, which is this very unique combination that you don't really see anywhere else, where they do some of those things that it's really fascinating tying it in the way we talk about, but it's really hard to find people that can do it.
Also get to talk about school safety. And so with the ongoing support of the board, our unions, and our administration, we've completed the successful insourcing of our D219 safety and security team. And truly, we see this as a major step toward ensuring that every student, staff member, and visitor experiences our schools as welcoming, safe, inclusive, and supportive places for learning and growth. And so in May, the board approved the hiring recommendations for 2 safety supervisors that we have onboarded this summer. They're assigned at Niles North, Bridges, Niles West, and Central is their primary areas of schools of supervision. In June, the board approved the recommendations of 36 new safety team hires, and they now fill 260-day calendar work and 205-day calendar work year positions at all 4 sites. And so this really is an exciting point of opportunity for us, bringing our safety teams and our staff in-house. We've created a space to align our safety practices that more closely align with our district values. So this is what our organizational structure now looks like. So when we talk about the 260, that's 260-day work year calendar, safety 2, the 205-day. We also have district, these are part-time safety in-house safety team members that we've always had. They work 600 hours a year, and they largely help us with like the lunch periods, passing times during those busy lunch period times. And we will continue, and you'll hear President, I don't want to steal Jim's thunder, but you also hear a presentation and a little bit more about our services and our MOU with Permar. We continue to need and partner with Permar for the evening shifts, late afternoon and evening shifts and weekends. So we now have an official organizational structure. We now have an official department. And so this is what we've been up to over the summer with the onboarding of the 260 and our safety supervisors, just grounding them in our mission, our vision, and our promise, as Ray opened with, going over Ray's department, Ray and his team, they've done a great job with this part of it, just helping them to understand the collective bargaining agreement and their benefits. They were excited to know about tuition reimbursement and ways to really continue their learning and growing outside of school. We've grounded them in our safety emergency protocols. We've already got some good feedback from them too, as we're looking to, update our emergency handbooks, our safety handbooks, our response protocols, and just really learning about our existing systems like incident command system, which you see at the bottom, understanding all the areas of our buildings, inside and the perimeters too, radio communication, email, phone, customer service, and building relationships. They've had an opportunity during summer school to build relationships with students and with staff and with each other. There's a lot of opportunity for future training now that they are members of our D219 family. So we're really excited about that. Things that we weren't able to do with them before, and engage them in some deeper and sustained ongoing continuous learning. So we have this framework up there, and that's essentially like for us to have a more stronger, more cohesive safety school culture. This is the framework and the motto which we live by, and that's guiding us in shaping our protocols and moving forward with our trainings.
Thank you. I'm going to talk a little about our professional learning. While the school year might have ended, our learning carried through all through the summer. So on July 1st, we welcomed a new administrative team. And so to help support all administrators, both returning administrators and those in new roles, we held several learning sessions and workshops. So the very first one that we did with our new principal teams, which included principals, associate principals, and assistant principals, was led by Takumi Iseda, Damani Brown, and Elise Bian, who are obviously our Director of Communications, and then Damani and Elise are digital learning specialists. So Takumi led them in a session on best practices when sending mass communication, and she covered everything from how to make the message accessible to all students and families, as well as appropriate font size and color. So we're really looking at and being intentional of how we communicate out to our families, especially now that we have the opportunity for 4 central administrators to be sending that communication to the entire grade level. At each building, I should say. Damani and Elise trained our staff on how to utilize the messaging features built into Infinite Campus. And the training was very timely because our APs were queuing up their messages, which they sent to the grade levels families that week. For our broader administrative team, we held our first ever summer admin series for human resources and school law, led by Ray, campus safety and security, led by Dr. Haskins, curriculum and student services, led by myself and Bridget, and then Jim closing us off with navigating the administrative landscape. So most of the sessions, some of our admin might have expected and wanted it to be playbooks, but instead our focus was really sharing our vision and providing the attendees with access to resources and tools so that ultimately we would empower them to truly lead in their respective roles. Ray alluded to this earlier when he was talking about our onboarding of staff members. And so one of the really cool things that I want to highlight even more during this presentation is just our mentoring program. So before it was kind of limited in some capacities, but we've really been intentional on expanding it and looking at how we're onboarding all of our staff members. So Alexis Matisi, our Director of Professional Learning and Staff Development, worked very closely with our mentor chairs. So as Ray mentioned, Rob Barton and Ryan Murphy leading our mentor, our co-chairs, leading our teachers at North. Sorry, I had to make sure I said it right there. And then Wileen Singh and DJ Kosiba, who led our new teachers at West, but then also John Fitzpatrick, Matt Jaffe, and Dome Shimrowski. We expanded that team because we really want to focus on how we're better providing support, not just for onboarding, but throughout the year for our support staff district-wide. And we're so fortunate to work with this group because they are the right people to welcome our new staff members and make sure that they truly understand our culture. So to dig into what actually happened yesterday, and it's crazy to think that it was just yesterday because we were just scheduled back to back from 7 till 4. We kicked off the festivities with our new staff orientation. So everyone that Ray had listed on that slide, those numbers, were part of our welcome, as well as all of the mentors and our principal teams from both buildings. So the new staff had the opportunity to not just meet each other, but meet our principal teams and district cabinet. And more importantly, they had the opportunity to learn more about our students, school, and community. We even held a multi-round game show at the end to quiz them on district facts. And don't worry, we rewarded them with some really great prizes that Ray had provided, similar to what was provided to our staff during Staff Appreciation Week. The remainder of the week is planned by those mentor chairs that I had mentioned earlier, focusing on classroom strategies, navigating student support services, and time dedicated to learning about our district applications and setting up their Canvas classrooms. The support that they get this week is complemented with that ongoing professional learning throughout the year so that they can get that just-in-time support based on when things are happening throughout the year. So that for our teachers is happening through our new teacher professional learning strand, which received rave reviews last year following the survey that we had administered. For our support staff, one of the reasons why we expanded the number of staff members who would be serving in that role was that we want to create a similar program for our support staff that targets learning for each of their unique roles. Our weekly late starts, even though we haven't kicked off the year yet officially, there's a lot of work that's already been done in terms of weekly late starts and the professional learning that goes in, that is integrated with that. So in May, the board generously approved additional stipends that would support professional learning for our staff. One of those helps support the creation of new professional learning strands. So during the summer, several teachers and staff members volunteered and wanted, I should say volunteered because they're compensated through the stipend, to create a new strand, which is really focused on equity, access, and opportunity. You might have seen on the slide that Rosina had shared that there was a training called Racism-Free Schools. That's a required training developed by the Illinois Department of Human Rights. But we as a school district know we want to do more for our staff, and so we're expanding upon that training, and that's what's being added as a new strand for the year, is that content plus our work in that area. We also worked with more people who want to be trainers for our trauma responsive educational practices strand, as well as we're really starting to build up our co-teaching strand and develop a district approach to how we train our staff. Sorry, we're developing a district approach and training our staff so they can implement that in future learning opportunities. So really one of the most exciting parts about all of these professional learning strands and the model that we've been implementing over the last year has been that not only can we create new strands and train the trainer with them, but we're really building teacher leadership and capacity and giving our staff an opportunity to serve as experts amongst their peers.
Take us home. So this is going to be kind of part one of part two of a two-part, just kind of talking about some finance and operations components that we've engaged in through the summer. The operation piece will highlight some work that Sarah's facilitated and engaged with as part two in terms of the construction update as the next agenda topic. So for us in the business office, you know, it's a lot of the behind the scenes work that helps kind of flow and engage our staff in the right workflow. So one of the things that we've done this summer is we've realigned and restructured our account codes, meaning we had a number of account codes that were no longer aligned to school code. So for instance, we had, I think, 6 or 7 different travel objects. So we had 332, 333, 334, 335, 336, 337, 338, and 339. When you looked at school code, there's only one at 332. So what we're trying to do is think about the workflow of our executive assistants in the building and how we help streamline their day and help them better identify where expenditures actually go. So we've eliminated almost 2,000 account codes that are no longer applicable in school code, which we feel will help engage staff in the right work and kind of also help our team be more successful in identifying where things get charged. We are working through a process to streamline travel procedures. We are very close to going live with SAP Concur. This is a project that the board, I believe, approved 2 years ago. It's been an ongoing off again, on again process with them and us to make sure that that's ready to go. We have a go live date of September 2nd. Within that too, Christine, myself, Sarah engaged a series of executive assistants and then administrators kind of in a travel task force to talk about best practices and what is our stance in terms of state, local, and then national travel and what our expectations are going to be. And then really kind of digging into board policy of what is the stance and what is written and how do we make sure that we're aligned to those pieces. Really, this is, I think, a big highlight to Sarah. I think she deserves a significant pat on the back for this one. The project of going to more of a automated system on our controls has been substantial. So she facilitated the RFP process. We were engaged with a product that was pretty outdated and proprietary, and it didn't allow us the necessary updates to our systems. And so we've gone to a Motorola, a Vigilon system, which is non-proprietary. It allows us to add on and think about our workflow when it comes to safety and security and what we want to program in. So we've now updated that software to all of our security cameras. We are now converting over the access control, so your badge swipe. This will have higher kind of authentication attached to the badges, so it just makes sure that things are a little safer. And then as we've navigated conversations related to Central and the West Edition, we're looking now about how we automate then badge access into the classrooms and whether we're going to be a digital-based component or if that's going to be key-based. So we are having ongoing reflective dialogues about where we want to transition to and how we continuously think about our facilities and maintaining the safety and security not only for our students but our staff. And then kind of the piece that will transition us into the next agenda is how we maintain our facilities. Clearly we have some health, life, safety items we addressed this summer with the health and with the roof at North and then the panels at West. But I think it's going to be kind of nice to see the updates related to the two projects that have a very large scope to our work.
First of all, thank you. This is a very exciting kickoff to 2025. There is no doubt in my mind that you all have been busy, not even just since the last day of graduation, but from certainly the last day of school. So we appreciate the time and dedication, not only of doing the work, but also the work of coming back and reporting to the board. So I do want to extend those thanks to everyone who participated in this. Any other questions or discussion items on this topic?
I have a quick question.
Of course.
Just about, first of all, this is all very exciting. Just about the racism-free and the anti-bias stuff that we're doing, or workshops, I should say, in the professional learning. Are we including in there how our teachers and administration can help support our LGBTQ kids as well, considering they are so attacked right now? Okay, great. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Also, I'm super excited to see that we're doing the trauma response training as well. And I would love to also just maybe like see if this is included in that as well, but like, just knowing how to help adopted kids that are also obviously having trauma response related, behavior as well. But like sometimes those kids are overlooked in the fact that they have trauma and that's how, so I just wonder if that could also like, if you could question when they do that, like if that's something that could also be added in, because I know that that gets overlooked a lot and they have the trauma response, so.
Great, thank you for raising that point. Other questions, discussion? Ken?
I was just going to say this is amazing work, and especially the safety program is amazing to see how far that has come, and almost wish we could do like a time capsule to show how far we've come with that, but hats off.
So I do want to also take 1 second to thank Jim for responding specifically to a request made by the board about busing and getting kids to school early. The early bird bus is something that's going to be starting this year. And we certainly and deeply appreciate the ability for kids, if they're If our students are courageous enough to get up and do science early in the morning, we should be courageous enough to figure out how to get them there. So thank you, Jim, on behalf of parents and the board, certainly, of making sure that that happens. So I wanted to make sure that that did not escape anybody's attention, that that was a request made and executed. So thank you, executive team, for coming up and doing this. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege and have a short 5-minute recess. When we come back, we're going to look forward to welcoming Jim and Sarah to the dais about the summer 2025 construction update. So 5 minutes. We'll be back at approximately 8:36.
So you
All right, thank you all for indulging me in my point of personal privilege. We are happy to call Jim and Sarah up and hear about the exciting summer 2025 construction updates.
Good evening. So part two, this will provide the board an update related to all of the summer construction projects that were approved dating back to last winter and then commissioned in March, specific to Central and West. As you can see, as you pulled in, Central is making a substantial amount of progress, and as you drive by West, you can clearly see that as well. But I believe the proof is in the pudding and kind of seeing the sites change over the course of time. So I'm going to turn this over to Sarah to highlight the work that she's supervised and continues to make sure that we make substantial progress on.
Thank you, Jim. So every summer we do have to take advantage of our time when we have less bodies in the building to get some of our more critical pieces completed. The exception to those being our larger projects, Niles Central and the addition at Niles West. And I just want to start off the meeting by thanking, or my portion of the meeting, by thanking the facilities managers, Marcus Holleran and Ryan Meyer at West and North respectively, as well as my associate principals who've been instrumental in making sure our summer construction's gone smoothly. So we'll start off, I bookend it with Niles Central and Niles West. So Niles, oh wait, that's my own board. So this is kind of a little time lapse. They're not the prettiest pictures. Construction's normally not very pretty as it goes through, but if you work from left to right, you'll see the progress. We just had a parking lot to start, then we had less of a parking lot, and as the building's gone up, it's been pretty dramatic to watch from our seats, which are right outside the window there. And then it actually is going to be even more dramatic. I'm going to geek out just for a minute. It's a prefabbed pieces for the walls, so they're doing the storm shelter right now, which is the brick that you see, but in just a few days, the building will be erected, and I'm just really excited to see that happen in the coming few weeks. So keep your eye out for that. And for those of you, just to get the board up to speed, I apologize. As you know, Niles Central is one of our bigger projects that houses, right now it's just housing about 1,200 square feet, and we're building a facility that's over 4,200 square feet to help our students who have different learning needs here at District 219. Next is the Niles North Digital Media Lab renovation. As we know, digital media has changed quite a bit in the last few years, so the needs of the students has changed. The picture on the left is what we had, and the picture on the right is where we're going. Down at the bottom, towards the back, there are studios now the students can use for podcasts and recording, and we made sure that there's visibility all across so we can use all 4 classrooms at once and have one teacher be able to monitor all those students. And then behind all that is also a green room, which the students will be able to utilize. So furniture got delivered on Friday. I will have updated pictures for the facilities committee meeting. Maybe. So next is the Niles West Fieldhouse translucent panels. This is one of the health life safety items every 10 years. So they come out and they do a health life safety survey. And this was one of the items that was marked that we needed to update. So on the left is the new panels, which you can see are bright and shiny and new looking. And on the right are the old panels. I think it just makes the building look nicer, plus it is safer to use as well. And I didn't update this because now it's all done, so I wanted to show you the dramatic difference. So I don't know what I'm supposed to point at something. Okay. Niles West Staff Lounge has been we've been discussing it for a couple of years, and we're really excited to have this change. It's included a lactation room for our new mothers. So that's what you see on the left-hand side of the screen there. There's actually 2 rooms to use, and then outside is their sinks and the refrigerator for them. And on the right-hand side is the changes we made to the staff lounge. We knocked down a wall and are utilizing the space so much more, so much better. We added 2 conference rooms as well as 2 telephone rooms. We all have calls we have to take during the middle of the day and no place where we can privately take them. So I'm glad that we were able to provide those spaces for all of our staff to collaborate, and then when they need that moment of privacy, they have that as well.
Sarah, and remind me for the Niles West Staff Lounge, this one is more centrally located, not kind of off into the hinterlands, allowing for more staff to use it more frequently, and hopefully building better community within staff, right?
Exactly. Yep. It's pretty much right in the middle of the building. So whereas the new addition, there'll be some spaces for that kind of that, but it is in the corner, as we know, where the addition's going. So this will allow people to come together right in the middle there.
Terrific. Thank you.
And then last but not least is the Niles West 3-story addition, which started back over spring break and is set to be complete in summer 2026. And I think these pictures are rather dramatic as well. On the top left, you see the building that was there, then we see the building not there, and then we see towers starting to go up, and very dramatic with the steel starting to be erected over there. Everything's going really well, and I'm just really grateful for the team that we have here at D219 that's helping this go, as well as grateful to the community for being flexible as traffic patterns change, and we need to be a little bit flexible with our spaces so that we can make this new space for everyone.
Sarah, are they ahead of schedule? It feels like they're moving quick, or maybe it's just your dramatic photos.
We are on schedule. I will say that we're moving as planned, and yeah.
Okay,
So, yep.
I'll take it.
The goal is always to be under roof by the time snow falls, so we are on track to do that.
Perfect. Any questions for Jim and Sarah related to the construction update? Celia?
Yeah, this is just the communication that's going to be, because I can imagine, traffic patterns are going to be a little different. We still have the bridge on Oakton. And so just wanted to know, what do parents need to know, and what's that communication going out?
Yep, Steve's been pretty on top of that. We were working on new traffic patterns. It's going to be very similar to the end of last year, and that was really intentional. Even if we have the ability to change it, we wanted to keep it consistent so that people know where to go from year to year. So the only people that'll really be experiencing something dramatically different will be our freshmen. Did you want to add anything to that, Steve?
Yeah, I'll be emailing all the freshman parents about the traffic pattern. We'll also have a video that will go hand in hand with what that will look like. And we regularly update our website. That's typically where our landing board is for all construction-related information, and we'll routinely make sure that our parents understand to go here for any updates, and anything that changes significantly, we'll make sure we'll keep updated as much as we can.
I mean, from my perspective, when I dropped off my daughter, I felt like the new pattern went well. And
Good.
So I don't know what the feedback was for parents, if that was the overarching, sentiment that it went well.
That's been most of the feedback. I mean, with IDOT doing, the construction on the bridge simultaneously, that obviously impacted some of the traffic, but I think overall, the feedback that we've received has been pretty good so far.
So related to that, given that we are at the mercy of IDOT for the bridge, do we have any update about when they're going to be done and out of our way?
I believe substantial completion or the completion of that project is supposed to be October. I think Halloween is actually the date, but I believe they are ahead of schedule. They were ahead of schedule last winter, but due to weather conditions, they couldn't pour concrete. But at this point, they are scheduled. It looks like they'll be completed ahead, but it's construction, so you never know.
Thrilled with Halloween. It's good to know at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not an oncoming train. I'm ecstatic with Halloween, and if they get it done early, fine. So, okay, terrific. Other questions for Jim and Sarah about the construction? I do look forward to hearing, perhaps this will start in the facilities committee, a discussion about once our friends from the Central are able to move to their new fantastic building, what making this building look like, and making the usability and those features, and making sure we are maximizing with that. So at some point, not putting anyone on the spot now, would love to hear a little bit about what the vision for that is, and also, because we have to, what the price tag is. So looking forward to hearing either from the facilities committee specifically, or here at the board level. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you all. I believe we actually get to keep Jim up here for a little bit longer. Oh, Sarah gets to stay as well, and we're going to talk about the 2025-26 Permar contract approval. So I will be completely transparent. This was at one point under discussion to go in the consent agenda, as this would be an ongoing service. I requested that it get pulled off of consent only because there are dramatic changes, as you heard from Dr. Haskins' report earlier about the fact that we now have a safety team. But we are still going to be making use of the good relationship that we built with Permar to kind of take advantage of that. So thank you, Jim, for being willing to do yet another presentation for us. I do acknowledge that it is more work, and I appreciate your willingness to do that for the board.
It's not a problem. So as Dr. Haskins mentioned, this is Permar is a critical partner in our safety team structure and process. They typically provide overnight services. So as Mr. Lopez would outline, kind of the first and third shifts, that overnight kind of midnight to 8 a.m. and then the 3 to 11:30 shift kind of in that afternoon. In addition to that, they cover then the weekends in our buildings, and then they also will provide ancillary and additional services for our athletic events. So the contract is a 1-year extension. This will be the last year that we're allowable under school code to have this annual extension. So we will need to go through an RFP process with Permar, or out to public, and then solicit, additional. They're all security service companies, but we know that they're really supporting a safety component and making sure that our campuses remain safe for not only our students and our staff. There are some structural elements in terms of some liability coverages that they've asked for the board to approve, because they're driving for Bridges and for Central for some of those routes that aren't covered by either First Student or by Lakeview for special education. So there's some components there that have changed in the language. They're not substantial, so they don't require us to go out for an RFP process. So everything that you see represented in that contract we feel is appropriate given the kind of the structural changes that we have here within the district.
Any questions? Celia?
Yep. So the Permar is gonna give us security or in the afternoon, right, during like sporting events?
Yes.
Now, are we gonna remain with the same staff that we did last year, or are we gonna have a whole?
They're trying to accommodate that relationship piece, but because your team isn't as large as it was in the past, they cannot guarantee that same relational component that you would see typically. So they're trying to make sure that we retain some base of relationship between the safety team members that are Permar employees and then our students and our staffs. But when it comes to larger scale events like football games, basketball games, there's no guarantee that we'd have the same group, because you're going to be pulling outside Permar staff that would not have that same context of D219.
But just to reiterate, we'll also have our own in-house staff at those events. It's not that all those events just get outside.
Okay,
no, it's to augment what we have.
Okay, all right, that's important. Okay, thank you for that clarifying.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. May I have a motion for the Board of Education to approve the amendment to the Security Services Agreement between Niles Township District 219 and Permar Security Services?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion related to the Permar contract approval? Okay, seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Member Dr. Koh, Member Cooley, Member Durr? Yes. Member Stennett?
Yes.
Member Wisniewski?
Yes.
Member Dr. Akras?
Yes.
Member Wood?
Yes. All right, thank you, Team Jim and Sarah. Looks like we're going to get to keep you for just a little bit longer for subject F, fiscal year 2026 tentative budget.
Yes, so this is a labor of love for the past 9 months. This process starts with the board approving the administration to start developing the next fiscal year budget. That started in January. Sarah and myself spent all of March meeting with all of the departments, the administrators, the curriculum directors, and talking through their allocations and recommendations for next school year to make sure that their mission, vision, and the support of our students is outlined and contained within the budget. From there, we start to go through and realign and restructure to make sure that things are aligned to school code. What you see presented here is pretty much the normal pattern that you would see in a school district. So typically most school districts will do a tentative in August and then approve the formal budget in September. That requires us to have a 30-day public notice. So that notice is included within the memo this evening. And then also the resolution to approve the tentative. In terms of revenues, a couple of things I do want to highlight is that, we are property tax driven based upon our structure. As a tier 4 school district identified by the state, we get very little new revenue coming in from the state of Illinois. The good news is we did see a press release from ISB today that they are not anticipating a substantial impact to federal revenues, and those will be formally released over the next couple of weeks. In reviewing the grant applications for IDEA, Title II, Title I, those appear to be online and on par with previous years, so we're not seeing a cut in federal revenues. Doesn't mean it won't happen in the future, but we are able to absorb that because of the way we handle a budgetary process. One thing I do want to highlight for the board, as I did highlight this at our last finance meeting, is Cook County is delayed in the second installment. So we are going to see a delay in the receipt of our kind of fall revenues for property taxes. It depends on who you ask, who's responsible for that. The county is pointing the finger at Tyler Tech. Tyler's saying it's a county issue. It doesn't matter, they're just going to be delayed. And so, this is where having strong fiscal policy and leadership from the board's perspective, from Mr. Moore's perspective, to us implementing those pieces, make sure that we're able to navigate these shortfalls when that cash doesn't come in. So that's where fund balance policy is really a critical element. In terms of expenditures, you're going to see typical pacing related to CPI increases for most contracts. Our staffing allocations will be related to your collective bargaining agreements. And then over there, the biggest expenditure you're going to see is a substantial allocation for capital projects. And that's really when you're looking at the completion of North and West, and then Central, and then there's some transfers that you're going to see in there. There's another, I think, $30 million transfer from our operating funds into capital projects. And then the other piece that I do want to highlight is an approximately $10 million transfer from our operating funds into debt service. The purpose for that transfer is for the lease certificates. So we pay for the lease certificates out of operating funds. We do not levy for them because it's a district expense. So we're not passing on that cost to our taxpayers. We're absorbing that cost and then budgeted for them strategically through how we then go through this process. But that does require us to make that transfer. We will be recommending those and bringing those to the board in September as part of kind of the overall budget process and the public hearing associated with the budget. So a lot in the tentative, but this also then gives us the opportunity to go back to the directors, their executive assistants, and make sure that those allocations are correct, and then we'll highlight any adjustments and changes in September. And then the goal is to also then update the meritorious budget award as a final draft. So this will be kind of the narrative that associates the budget and what our decisions are, and then the long-term data that is associated with our decisions.
Couple of questions. Do you know what the reason is for the CPPRT decrease?
So CPPRT is corporate property personal replacement tax. That was overstated. During the course of the pandemic, there was like a 230% increase in that, and it was overstated. And what you're seeing is kind of a curtailing and a reduction to return it back to normal levels. Okay. So that's kind of what you're starting to see is the substantial decreases. I want to say last year was a 23% decrease. I would anticipate another decrease this year, but that hasn't been released yet. Typically middle of August to end of August is where we see that. So we'll have an updated number for CPPRT.
So basically it's just falling back to normal.
Yes.
Levels. Okay. Is that the same for the the PTAB settlements and the,
Yeah, that we belong to a cooperative for PTAB, and so those are hard to predict on what's going to happen when, because there's always an appeal on, right, I feel my property is appraised here, this is what it should be worth, and so we belong to a cooperative through the township that navigates and then negotiates on our behalf. Typically, we're the largest impacted by that because we represent the entirety of the township, but we're also then able to absorb some of that because of the way we navigate our revenues.
okay. The 0.33% for transportation, was that the early bird we talked about earlier?
Some of it's early bird, but we also were very aggressive with our transportation contracts. So we went to Lakeview and to First Student. So we assigned the board approved a 5-year contract with First Student at a 3.75% increase. So that kind of helps offset some of that. And then Lakeview will also match with their services as well.
Okay, and 2 more quick questions. The transfer to the educational fund for the capital project, specifically, is that for?
That is to continue to make sure we have appropriate fund balances in Fund 60 to make sure that we're funding the west and the central projects, and then kind of it gives us enough capital going into so not only are we thinking about 26, we have to be thinking about 26, 27 and making sure there's enough revenue and fund balance in Fund 60 capital projects to make sure that we meet the remaining payments for those 2 projects, because they'll bleed over the 2 fiscal years.
Okay, and the public hearing is in September.
Yes.
Historically, do we typically have any public feedback in those hearings?
Not that last year was my first year, no. I can go back to my previous history in my last district. Typically, there's not a lot of feedback that comes into that. I think the process that we leveraged here in the district through the finance committee first, seeing the budget, and then this ongoing process of the tentative and then it being on display. That display piece is really the opportunity for the public to come in and then review and then ask questions, and that's where Sarah and I can then meet and discuss those pieces with the public about why there's certain allocations and what that process looks like.
Thank you.
I do look forward to the opportunity for further discussion at the Finance Committee meeting in a couple of weeks, if that should be needed as well. So don't feel like if there's a question you don't get to tonight, that this is the last opportunity, obviously. Other questions? No? Okay. May I have a motion for the Board of Education to authorize the administration to place the fiscal year FY 2026 tentative budget on public display by adopting the resolution approving the tentative budget and the resolution approving the tentative budget for publication?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I would just like to say that I appreciate the transparency and process that Jim has spearheaded through making sure that we do have public presentation as well as the meritorious budget document. I don't know, it's quite large actually, 130 pages or so, but being able to actually have that to refer to allow folks who are deeply interested in the numbers deep dive to the space and the accuracy to be able to do so. So thank you again. There's no part of me that thinks that that's easy. So any discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Member Stennett?
Yes.
Member Wisniewski?
Yes.
Member Dr. Akras?
Yes.
Member Cooley? Member Durr?
Yes.
Member Dr. Coe? Member Wood?
Yes. Thank you. All right, moving on to point number 9, new business. Any new business that would like to be brought before the board? Okay. Seeing none for right now, I'll allow you a whole month to think about it in the next month. Now we're on to the superintendent's report.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the executive team for their presentation earlier about their work during the summer, and I do want to especially reach out to them and thank them. As you saw, we've really tried to shift the way we onboard our admin team as we work through this, and their work over the summer to have weekly, and we were hoping we'd get a few, but we had 28 to 30 people at every session going through those topics that I went through before. But that's a lot of work to put that all together. It's not that, oh, we'll pull last year's file out because this was all newly created during the summer. And I'm just, you know, it strikes me as the school year starting that I am just so lucky to be able to work with the colleagues that I work with. They are incredible. And drive me to be better. So thank you very much to all of them. And speaking of somebody we owe thanks to, and we heard from him earlier, but Steve Parther, I could not be more excited for Steve to be taking over as principal of West. I've said to anybody that's asked, from the moment I've been here, one of the people that I could count on was Steve. He'd stay, he'd work. He doesn't look for somebody else to do something. Chairs need moving, some needs picked up. Steve's there doing it. And, you know, he has the support of our admin team. He has the support of this board, I know. And we're just so thankful to have you to kick off this school year. And there will be time later in the year where we'll talk about the process of how we look for that position long term, but that's off in the future. Right now, all of our support is behind Steve as he kicks off the year and his administrative team, and he's got them humming. So thank you, Mr. Parther. We appreciate it. Now, you've heard school starts next week, and I say to people as this comes up, well, are we ready? Is it? Oh, it don't matter. They're coming. I mean, it's, you know, and I walk through buildings and I look at things and you know, I'll say to Jim or Sarah, are we sure this is going to be ready? Yep, it'll be ready. And it always is ready. It's just, but we are in the thick of it right now. This week, as you heard from our team, is a big week as we welcome new people in, as we welcome new students this week. Freshman orientation events at the schools Thursday, as we welcome ninth graders and their families. And like, you know, next week we welcome kids and it's welcome home, welcome back. These ninth graders coming in, it's come see your new place. This is where you get to be. And this is a special place, and I'm more sure of it than ever. And I'm excited for what they get to start. I said to, you know, we had a larger than a handful of teachers at new teacher orientation yesterday when we went through that this is their first job in teaching. And my first response to them was, I am so jealous that this is your first day and you get to start your education career here. And it's mostly because you get to meet our kids. Because I've never met people that I want to do right by more than our students here. And we've got the right people in place, and good things are happening, as you'll be hearing as we begin the school year. More than good things, great things. So that begins next week. Then we just roll right away. It's like sports and activities go. Open house Thursday, September 4th. So you can come in, meet our new assistant principals, meet our new administrators, meet your classroom teachers. And then, as we mentioned earlier, our Building Bright Futures community events. And I was glad you asked the question, what about people that don't have kids in the district? No, we want your voices. Like, I want to reach out to this community and say, you're getting what you pay for. This district is coming through, our kids are coming through, and your investment is paying off. And we do want to hear from you. So couldn't be more pleased to welcome everybody in our community that helps support us. And, you know, we hope every student that's coming to our schools can find a way to connect. And we're making this a focus goal this year of keeping to reach out. Which club, which sport, which activity are you involved in? The best way, we talk about attendance, the best way to increase student attendance is engaging classes. That's actually number one. If you're deeply engaged in the work you're doing in class, you come to school. But it's also being part of a sport, being a part of an activity, being a part of a club. Connect, get involved. It's going to be a great school year, and it's even better when you build your support system around you. And we will do everything we can to make sure that every student is known by name and that there's adults that know them. And also, I put the challenge out, I want to know a strength of every kid. I want to know something that makes them special and what they can do. And then maybe a need. Okay, how do I get to reach them? And that's the charge we've put forward with our new assistant principal group. So we're ready. Like we said, whether it wouldn't matter if we were or not, but we are. And this is going to be a great, great year in District 219. And we're in the right hand. So thanks to everybody, and welcome back, everybody at home.
I do want to take a second and thank Tom for the meet and greet with the admin earlier. The board had the opportunity to meet and greet all of the admin, new faces and welcoming back familiar folks. We were talking about a little bit earlier, the electricity in the air was palpable. People are excited. We are excited. I think this is going to be one of the good ones. So thank you, Tom, for your leadership. We appreciate it, and we're ready to rock and roll, I suppose. Let's move on to number 11, board committee reports. Any board committee reports? Policy committee did meet. Ken, did you want to talk a little bit about, we're meeting next time, next week after next? Oh, my heavens. Our endurance run in getting the policies up and going for the new system is, we're what, about halfway through at this point? We meet on the 20th. Thank you, Nor. Any other, I know facilities is meeting on Monday. Any other upcoming committees or committees to hear about? I believe CSSI or the new curriculum committee will be meeting at the end of August, which is very exciting. So apparently we're going to have to do a stay tuned for more updates at the next meeting. So FOIA items, the information for FOIA and monthly financial reports have been provided. Jim, I am going to take a second and put you on the spot. What's the CPI running these days?
It's sitting right around 2.6.
Oh, a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's a little higher, but it still hasn't
Really peaked up at all. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Thank you. Let's see here. I think we've reached the end of the internet, friends. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Wisniewski?
Yes.
Member Durr?
Yes.
Member Dr. Akras?
Yes.
Member Cooley? Member Dr. Coe? Member Stennett?
Yes.
Member Wood?
Yes. All right, the motion carries. Everybody have a great night.
She's a rock star. I have faith in you.
Is the finances committee of the whole, and that's it.
Facilities.
Yes, facilities is not.